Hey, friend, welcome back to Lifestyle School, the podcast that gives you the tools, strategies, and mindset to take ownership of your health, one intentional decision at a time. Today's episode is one of those heart-to-heart conversations I think we all need from time to time. Today, we're going to talk about two powerful truths. Number one is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And number two is that it's easier to stay out of trouble than it is to get out of trouble. You've probably heard these phrases before. They sound wise, and they truly are, but most of us don't really take them seriously until we're already in a situation we wish we could have avoided. Whether it's gaining weight that's really hard to lose, dealing with that burnout, recovering from a health scare, or even just feeling stuck in our bodies, we tend to ignore small problems until they become big ones. So, in today's episode, I want to dig into what these sayings mean when it comes to our health journey. We're going to talk about why prevention is so powerful and what the true cost of getting out of trouble looks like, and how to shift our mindset and some simple, sustainable prevention tools you can start using today. Because, yes, it is hard work to take care of yourself consistently, but it's way harder to fix what's been broken down over time. So now, as always, before we get into it, a quick disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always make sure you consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any big health or lifestyle changes. Okay, guys, with that, let's dive in. Let's start with the idea that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. As I was thinking about this podcast episode today, it made me think of a conversation I had just a couple nights ago with a friend. She is a recent graduate from Stanford psychiatry residency, and she has a focus on lifestyle medicine, which I think is so cool. I didn't even realize Stanford had a program like that, but super cool. And we were talking about, lifestyle medicine essentially. And she asked me the question is, how do you motivate people? Because, I've been doing this for 10 years. She's, been working in clinic during residency, but she's really about to dig into her own practice. And I was just really honest with her. And I said, you can't motivate people. People have to be ready to change. And until they're ready to change, as like a coach, you can talk until you're blue in the face, you can say all the right things, but it's not going to change anything. And that's a really hard truth, I think, in life to come to as a coach, is like, because you're passionate, you want to help people, but people have to be ready to change or it won't happen. And I think that ties directly into this conversation today, because the only person who can change something in your own life is you, and you have to be ready and willing to get into the discomfort that comes with change. And I think, like, looking back even at like my podcast episode numbers, I can see how many people have listened to each podcast episode. I think we're on episode 34, which is wild to me. And thank you everyone who's listened and supported my show. I've really appreciated it. But I've noticed that, when when I do episodes on topics like this, there's typically fewer listeners, which I get it. It's not as like sexy of a topic as, learning about science and like mechanisms and how the body does these different things. And it doesn't necessarily seem as pertinent to weight loss or maybe getting healthy and healing. But I want to tell you, as someone who's worked in this field now for a decade, and I've seen hundreds of people come and go through the doors of the clinic that I worked in, which was a functional medicine clinic, doing lifestyle nutrition coaching there and weight loss coaching, as well as in my own practice. And um, what I have realized is we can know the right thing to do. The hardest part for anyone on their health or weight loss journey is getting themselves to do it, right? And what that takes is it takes a mindset shift. You have to start thinking about your life and problems differently, or everything is going to stay the same because our habit patterns, the systems in our life and our lifestyle are so deeply ingrained, even from the time that we are really young. We have these habit patterns, that coping mechanisms that we've always gone to. Those are really hard to break. And I'm not trying to sugarcoat this at all for you today. And so we have to not only become educated on how to, change our physiology, our chemistry, that we can heal so that we can lose weight, but we also have to figure out how we can change our thinking to align with this new person we want to be. Because if we never do that, you may lose the weight because you're really focused for a period of time, but eventually those old habits and lifestyle patterns are going to take over and you're going to go back to the same old, same old. And that makes me think of this phrase. I know I've said a ton, but I think Einstein said it maybe. I'm blanking, but he said it's insanity. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. But many of us, that's what we do with our lifestyle, right? We focus on our health, our nutrition, our weight loss for a period of time, and we get results, but then we go back to the way we've always done everything, and we expect these results to stay, but that's just not how it works, right? Our old habit patterns are going to get us the same old results. So we have to really think about how can we change our thinking, because all of action starts in our brain and in our thoughts and our self-talk. So that is what today's podcast episode is about. And none of what I just said was in any of my notes, but I thought this was really something worth saying because I want to see every person who goes through Lifestyle School for Weight Loss course, who goes through my coaching program, or who even just listens to this podcast to really grasp like what it takes to really have a lifestyle that promotes the health and the weight that they want. And so we are complex beings as humans. We're not just, machines that we can do, XYZ meal plan and put these specific nutrients in our body and we're going to get X result. Like we have emotions and we have feelings and those affect our health too. And so we're complex beings and we have to honor that on our health journey. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox and get back to the podcast at hand. So talking about the idea that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So when it comes to our health, prevention means doing those small daily things that protect our body really before it breaks down, or maybe at the beginning of that process. It means keeping your blood sugar stable so you don't end up with insulin resistance. It means moving your body regularly so you don't lose muscle mass and develop joint pain or chronic fatigue. It means managing stress now so you don't end up burnt out, anxious, or dealing with hormonal imbalance later. The truth is that prevention is not glamorous, and that's what I'm always telling my clients is doing these small daily tasks. They seem very meaningless, like they don't make a big impact, but really that's where the true change happens, right there. And yeah, it's not glamorous, and a lot of times it's unseen. It doesn't get applause. No one throws you a party because you went to bed at 10 p.m. instead of watching one more episode of Netflix. You don't get instant results from eating your protein and your vegetables instead of grabbing takeout. But over time, prevention always wins every single time, right? And prevention is like compound interest. You don't see the payoff right away, but the effects compound in your favor when you stay consistent. And I had a conversation recently with a client who's doing my 8 weeks personalized coaching program with Lifestyle School. And she had taken 3 weeks off to travel and have family in town. And, she wasn't doing, any extra fasting, or her dietary guidelines got much more broad because she was eating out a lot, she was traveling, but she tried to do the basic things, right? She was doing a 16-8 fast almost every day. She wasn't snacking. She was trying to walk and move as much as she could. And she was shocked that the first 3 weeks we'd been working together, she lost 10 pounds. Then she had these 3 weeks of you think about it kind of like vacation, and she had maintained that weight and that weight loss. And what that means is that these small changes really, it's just an example of how these changes compound over time to help um, give our body the consistency it needs to be healthy. And here's the deal, most people only start to care about prevention or these small things after something goes really, really wrong, sadly. They wait until they're exhausted. Maybe they wait until their hemoglobin A1C creeps up and the doctor says you have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, or until the scale hits a number that feels scary to them. They feel like they can't move the way they want to. Or maybe the doctor tells them they're on the edge of a diagnosis, or maybe they have like a cardiac event. Working in clinic with uh, my dad, who was the functional medicine doctor over the course of 8 years, this is another part of that conversation I had with my friend who's just starting her practice. But there was many times when Dr. Joe would sit down with patients about, doing a lifestyle overhaul and really working to fix the root cause of their issue. And there was times when he told them, I don't think you're ready to do this, because they weren't ready to change. Like things weren't bad enough. And then on the flip side, he'd have patients come in and they would literally say to us, I am desperate. I will do absolutely anything you ask me to do because I'm so desperate to feel better. And it's really, really sad that I think for a lot of people, I think I can be like this. Things have to get really, really bad before we're willing to take action and live in the discomfort of change for, that better outcome. And that is not what I want for you. And so, like, as we're talking today, I would love for you to sit with that and like kind of chew on that, if that makes sense. And ask yourself that hard question. Am I avoiding something that's going to become a much bigger problem later? And what is that problem? And what's keeping me from taking action now? I think that's a really important conversation we have to start having with ourselves, because, at the point where things are really bad, the road back to being healthier is much longer and it's much harder. It's not impossible, but the pain of that is avoidable had we started paying attention earlier. And that's what I want for you. That is my hope, is that you're not at that point where everything, like the train is off the rails and up in flames, and you're trying to get back on track. So let's talk about what it means to be in trouble with your health. I want to get really clear on that. Trouble might look like, you're tired all the time, no matter how much coffee you drink. This might not seem alarming for people, but this is a sign that you're in trouble. Maybe you've gained weight and you can't seem to lose it even when you try. Like what you used to do just isn't working. Maybe you're bloated and moody and irritable and you just don't quite feel like yourself. Or maybe your sleep is a mess. Maybe, you're having trouble falling asleep, you're having trouble staying asleep. That is a sign that you are moving towards trouble. Maybe your labs are trending in the wrong direction, or maybe you feel like you're dragging your body around instead of living in it and feeling energized and ready to take on the day when you wake up. So here's the kicker. For most people, those symptoms don't show up overnight, the ones I just listed. They build slowly over time, over years of missed sleep, of eating a bunch of processed food, living in a highly stressed state, from skipping workouts and ignoring their body's signals. Most chronic conditions, think obesity, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, autoimmune conditions, they don't just happen. They're the end result of long-term under-addressed dysfunction in the body. And once you're in that place, climbing out takes so much more work. And it's going to always be more costly, whether it's from a financial perspective or a time perspective. You have to undo years of damage at that point. And you have to reverse these really deeply ingrained patterns. You have to rebuild trust with your body and your habits. And emotionally, let's be totally honest, that's an extremely draining process. And it's so easy to feel discouraged and overwhelmed along the way. And a lot of what I have done in my coaching program, especially when I was in clinic, because I was working with, generally much sicker people, a lot of it is like listening to people and encouraging them that like if they stay the course, like they are going to make the change. But it just takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, and that is really hard because we live in a microwave fast food society where it's like we want results yesterday. We don't have that patience to just stay the course steady day after day after day, which is what is required, especially when we're really in big trouble with our health, to reel things back in and to get the train back on track. And that's why the second saying is so true. The saying that it's easier to stay out of trouble than get out of trouble, because once you're in it, every step forward is going to feel like it's uphill. You're dealing with cravings, you're dealing with fatigue, emotional resistance, and physical symptoms all at once. And that's why I always tell my clients, if you're not in a health crisis now, you have an opportunity. You have the chance to protect your body and your mind so you never have to dig yourself out of a deep, painful hole. And trust me, guys, I have walked alongside many people who have had to dig themselves out of a deep, painful hole. And that is really, really difficult. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So, how do we do that, right? How do we start thinking and acting with prevention in mind? First, we have to reframe what success looks like. We live in a world that glorifies dramatic turnarounds and before and after photos, and that all or nothing mindset of you're either going super hard or you're not doing anything at all. But what if the real success story is the person who never needed a massive intervention because they stayed consistent week over week, month over month, year after year, right? What if you celebrated the days you went for a walk instead of skipping it? I know, like for me, something that I'm really focusing on, I'm currently roughly 15, 16 weeks pregnant. Um, I really, like my body really feels like it breaks down during pregnancy, if I'm being totally honest. Like everything hurts. And walking for more than a mile, typically towards the end of the pregnancy, is really difficult for me because I'll be in so much pain afterwards. And I just feel like I haven't been pregnant for like 4 years. My youngest is currently 4. And so I'm older now, right? And I don't want to get to the end of my pregnancy and like to not feel like I can walk or hike or do what I want to do and feel debilitated. So I'm trying to be really intentional, but every day going out and walking multiple times a day for a mile so that hopefully I'm not at the end of my pregnancy trying to dig myself out of a hole, right? But it seems like such a small thing to do sometimes in the moment. It's like, oh, I need to go, I'm going to come record this podcast instead of going for my little 20-minute walk. I'm happy to say that today I did go for my 20-minute walk before I sat down to record this podcast. But that's no one celebrates that. And it doesn't feel like this big, sexy win to the masses. But for me, doing it is a really big deal, right? So we have to celebrate that. And I need to celebrate that for myself, right? And what if you honored the nights that, you actually got to bed on time? And what if you saw that boring but consistent breakfast or lunch or dinner at home as a small act of self-respect, of taking the time to make good, nourishing food for yourself as a big win, and you celebrate it because that is prevention and that is winning the game when it comes to building a lifestyle that's going to promote health. It's going to promote a healthy weight and energy and essentially set you up to have the life that you want. And secondly, you have to start turning into your body, or not turning, tuning into your body's signals before they become screams. So, that lingering bloat, you have to pay attention because that's your body sending you a signal. If you're having an energy crash every afternoon at 3 p.m. where you're like, I need coffee or I'm going to fall asleep at my desk, that is something to pay attention to because there's a reason that's happening. That feeling of anxiety in your chest every morning when you wake up, you can't ignore it because prevention requires awareness and it means catching things early before they become full blown problems. And that's why so many times I talk about, we have to turn off autopilot in our life. I think I did a podcast about this at the very beginning of my podcasting journey. So maybe it's like within the first 10 episodes, but turning off autopilot and like tuning into our lives, into our bodies and what it's trying to tell us so that we can start course correcting where needed. And third is, and this one is so important, we have to build systems that make prevention easier for us because stacking your healthy habits onto your day so that they require less effort is going to make you so much more likely to do them. So this could look like prepping your protein at the beginning of the week, or even just like writing down what you're going to make for the different meals each day of the week. I don't know about you, but I have three small kids at home. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and so like my role in our household is I do all the grocery shopping, meal prep, cooking, majority of the dishes. And I have felt so burnt out when it comes to cooking meals. And actually, as I'm sitting here, I'm remembering, oh, I was supposed to pull out chicken to thaw for dinner, and I totally forgot before I sat down to record this. But um, thinking ahead and planning can feel so hard, especially when you feel just like bored and burnt out from food prep, right? But doing something so simple as like every Sunday afternoon, I look at my calendar for the week, my meal calendar, and I pull out the protein that I need for Monday through Wednesday, so it's thawed in the fridge. That can be a huge win and a really incredible habit stack, right? Because if something's thawed in the fridge, you're so much more likely to go grab it and actually prep it and make it for your meal versus if it's in the deep freezer, absolutely frozen, you're gonna be like, okay, well, this is gonna take too long. Let's do something quick and easy. Let's throw in a pizza, whatever, right? You've got to build a system around things like taking your supplements, having a routine where you do it the exact same way every day, or you attach it to another habit that you already have. That's a huge win. What you could do is you could schedule your movement or your workout like a meeting. A lot of people, if they are working, what they'll do is they bring their workout clothes and they go straight to the gym right after work because if you come home in between, you're so much more likely to sit down on the couch and be like, wow, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. And then it never happens, right? Versus if you go straight to the gym, you might be like, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. But you're like, I'm here. I'm going to start moving for 5 minutes. And then you start to become energized. You start to get some of those good endorphins. And before you know it, you've done a great workout and you're like, wow, I feel really accomplished, right? So you got to figure out how you can stack your healthy habits onto your day that works for your lifestyle. And then another really easy but really important habit is turning off your phone like an hour or so before bed as you wind down. Might seem like a small thing, but like if you struggle with sleep or turning your brain off, this is going to be a huge win for you. These things, may not seem big, but they definitely compound over time and have a really big effect on our health. So let me say it again. It's easier to stay out of trouble than get out of trouble. And let me give you a simple analogy. Imagine your kitchen. If you clean it a little bit each night, wipe down the counters, load the dishwasher, sweep the floor, it stays pretty manageable, right? Maybe you deep clean once in a while, but overall it feels pretty good to be in your kitchen. Now imagine if you ignore your kitchen for a week. The dishes pile up, the trash overflows, the smell starts creeping in, and now it's just not like a quick tidy up before bed. It's a full-blown project that's going to take an hour or more. And that's the difference between prevention and repair. And this is actually something I was thinking about this morning because last night I just didn't feel that great. I ate a great healthy meal, but my stomach was like, maybe not. And so I didn't do like the dishes and clean up after dinner like I typically would. I just didn't feel like I had the energy. And this morning I woke up and I was like, man, last night Hope really wasn't thinking about this morning Hope. Like last night was Wednesday night. Yeah, Wednesday night Hope wasn't thinking about Thursday morning Hope. I didn't have Thursday morning Hope in mind because I hate waking up to a dirty kitchen. Um, and so, it's like the same thing. We need to think about our future self and what our future self wants and needs, because it's going to make all the difference on our journey. And, um, that example isn't dramatic as like letting your kitchen go for a week, but that is really real. Like sometimes my kids have a chore list. They're supposed to sweep the floor, and sometimes they just choose not to do their chores, that like their paid chores. And we don't necessarily force them to do it all the time, but then sometimes I'm like, this floor is so dirty. I am just going to clean it because I can't handle it, right? And it takes so much more time to do that. And then you got to get the mop out, and it becomes a whole ordeal. We don't want to get to that point with our health. Your health works the exact same way. If you tend to it daily, even in small ways, a little sweep here, a little vacuum here, you keep it running smoothly, right? You throw everything in the dishwasher and run it. But if you ignore it, you're signaling, not signaling, you're, I can't speak today apparently, you're signing up for a much harder, more painful process later on. Same thing like with your laundry. I know this is so relatable, but if you wait weeks to do your laundry, it's so painful to like fold it and put it away. Absolute disaster. Versus if you just do a load a day, it's so much more manageable. And I want to be clear, this doesn't mean you need to be perfect. Like, we're not about perfection over here at Lifestyle School. Not at all. Life happens, we get off track, and it's inevitable. But if you've been off track for a while, let this be your reminder you're not broken, but the climb will take longer than if you had stayed grounded or gotten right back on track with your habits, shortly after you fell off, right? The longer you stay off track, the harder and longer it's going to take to get back on track. So don't wait until you're in pain to care for your health. Care now, even if things feel mostly fine. And my hope for you is that you're listening to this and things feel mostly fine. But I don't want you to become complacent of like, oh, I'm fine. So, I'm not gonna sit in the discomfort of trying to change and become better, right? Because um, there's this like sweet spot that if you invest in your health, you're really going to live with the benefits and the fruit of prevention. So here's your takeaway for today. Prevention isn't sexy. It doesn't get headlines, but it works. Okay. I'm going to say that again because I just think it's really, really important for everyone to hear and be reminded of. Prevention isn't sexy. It doesn't get headlines, but it works. And you don't need a diagnosis to start treating your health like it matters. You don't need to wake up. You don't need a wake up call to make a change. You can act now while you're still feeling mostly good, right? To build a foundation that protects you and your health later. Because when it comes to your health, an ounce of prevention really is worth a pound of cure. And it's so much easier to stay out of trouble than it is to climb your way out later. So here's your challenge this week. I want to put it out there for you. Pick one thing you can do daily that's going to support prevention. Maybe that's getting 8 hours of sleep every night. Maybe it's walking after your meals. Maybe it's making a protein forward first meal of the day. Whatever it is, do it with intention, celebrate it, and don't wait until things are urgent. And if this message spoke to you, I'd love it if you'd share this episode with a friend who needs it. And if you're ready to go deeper, come join me inside of the Lifestyle School for Weight Loss course. Or you could consider working with me in my 8-week personalized coaching program with Lifestyle School. I will likely have one spot open potentially as this comes available to work with a client, because I only take a few clients at a time because I really want to be able to make sure I give them my full attention. But in lifestyle school, I want to be clear, we don't chase quick fixes. We work to build the kind of lifestyle that keeps us out of trouble on purpose. And one other thing I want to say, I meant to bring this up earlier, but I forgot to jot it down in my notes. I think when it comes to pursuing prevention, it's also really, really important to be connected with why we want to be healthy in the first place. So whether that's we have a family history of type 2 diabetes, and we can see ourselves trending that way if we're not intentional. Maybe it could be you have a family member who has experienced cancer or a heart event or, had an autoimmune condition. These are all very big, real things. And always staying connected to why we started in the first place is going to keep us going on the days where we have no motivation. And those days are coming, baby. They are coming. And hopefully they're far and few between, but they will come. And so you have to be connected with your purpose for being here in the first place. Okay, guys, with that, thank you so much for listening. I so value your time. And we will see you next time on the Lifestyle School for Weight, or gosh, I can't talk, guys. The Lifestyle School podcast. See you soon, guys.